The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. In the year 2247, they finally got their answer. They were not alone. And the galaxy was not friendly. The first alien ships appeared near Jupiter. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Smooth silver holes that seemed to glow with inner light. Energy shields that sparkled like captured lightning. Weapons that could turn mountains into ash. The aliens called themselves the Galactic HFY, a coalition of 200 species that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Humanity sent its best diplomats to meet them. The aliens listened politely. Then they laughed. "You are classified as a Tier 9 primitive species," the Alien Council announced. Their leader, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, spoke with clear amusement. "You have only just discovered faster-than-light travel. Your technology is crude. Your weapons are... amusing." Earth's ambassador tried to negotiate. He asked for trade agreements. He asked for technology sharing. He asked for respect. The council laughed again. "Primitives do not negotiate," the gray alien said. "Primitives submit. You will join the hegemony as a servant species, or you will be removed. Those are your only choices." The ambassador returned to Earth with heavy news. Humanity had dreamed of finding friends among the stars. Instead, it found masters who saw them as nothing more than insects. But not everyone in the hegemony agreed with this treatment. Ambassador Lissa was different from the others. She came from a species that had also been conquered long ago. Her people had learned to survive by being useful, by being quiet, by never causing trouble. She had watched humanity's ambassador speak with such hope, such pride. It reminded her of something her people had lost centuries ago. She found Earth's ambassador before he left. "You must listen to me," she whispered. "The hegemony does not tolerate defiance. They will come for your world. They always do. What can we do?" The ambassador asked. "Their ships are more powerful than anything we have." Lissa looked around to make sure no one was watching. "I do not know. But I know this. Every species that submitted is now a slave. Every species that fought was destroyed. Perhaps your people can find a third path, but you must hurry. They will not wait long." The warning reached Earth within days. The world's leaders met in secret. They argued and debated and despaired. How could humanity fight an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years? Their ships were faster. Their weapons were stronger. Their shields could stop any attack. But deep beneath the mountains of Korea, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Captain Taeho stood in a massive underground hangar, looking up at humanity's secret hope. The HSS Baekdu was not beautiful like the alien ships. It was rough and angular, built for war rather than elegance. 2 kilometers of steel and fury, painted in dark gray. But what made it special was not its size. It was the weapon that ran through its entire length. "Project Thunder God," said a voice behind him. Chief Engineer Dae-soo walked up to stand beside the captain. He was a small man with tired eyes and oil-stained hands. But those hands had built something that no one in the galaxy had seen for 8,000 years. "Tell me again how it works," Taeho said. Dae-soo smiled. It was not a happy smile. The hegemony abandoned kinetic weapons millennia ago. They thought energy weapons were superior. Plasma beams, particle cannons, antimatter warheads, all very impressive, all very powerful, and all completely useless against solid matter moving at 5% of light speed. Taeho looked at the massive barrel that ran through the ship's core. "A railgun. The biggest railgun ever built," Dae-soo confirmed. 2 kilometers of electromagnetic acceleration. It fires a 10-ton tungsten rod at 15,000 kilometers per second. Do you know how much energy that carries? Enough. Dae-soo laughed. Enough to crack a moon. Their shields are designed to disperse energy. They spread out plasma bolts, absorb particle beams, redirect antimatter explosions, but they cannot stop a solid piece of metal. Nothing can stop it. Not at that speed. Captain Taeho nodded slowly. He understood what this meant. The hegemony had made themselves invincible against the weapons they knew. They had never considered the weapons they had forgotten. "How soon can we be ready?" he asked. "The Baekdu is complete," Daesu said. "We have 11 more ships with smaller railguns. Not as powerful, but still deadly. The question is not whether we are ready. The question is whether we will have time." As if answering his words, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Taeho pulled out his communicator. The face of Admiral Sung-mi appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much war. "Captain," she said, her voice steady, despite the chaos behind her. "Long-range sensors have detected a hegemony fleet. 300 warships. They are heading for Earth." Taeho felt his stomach turn cold. "How long?" 72 hours. "They have sent a message ahead." Sumi's jaw tightened. "They are calling it a peaceful integration mission. They say they will help us transition into the hegemony. They say resistance would be unwise, and if we refuse..." Sumi's eyes hardened. "Then they will demonstrate what happens to species that refuse." Taeho looked back at the Baekdu. Somewhere out there, 300 alien warships were coming to enslave his world. They had technology that was thousands of years more advanced. They had weapons that could glass entire continents. They had shields that could stop anything, almost anything, Admiral Taeho said. "I think it is time to show them what primitives can do." Sumi nodded. "Get your crew ready, Captain." In Taeho, do not miss. Communication ended. Taeho turned to find Daesu already walking toward the ship, shouting orders to engineers and technicians. Somewhere above them, the stars were filled with enemies who thought humanity was nothing but an easy conquest. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The news spread across Earth like fire. 300 alien warships were coming. 72 hours until arrival. Panic filled the streets of every city. People ran to shelters that would not save them. They prayed to gods who seemed very far away. They held their families and waited for the end. But in the cold darkness of space, 12 ships slipped away from Earth's orbit. They were not running. They were hunting. Admiral Sung-mi stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the tactical display. 12 ships against 300. The numbers were laughable. In any normal battle, they would be destroyed in minutes. But this would not be a normal battle. "All ships report ready," her communications officer announced. Gutsumi turned to the main screen. "Open a channel to the Baekdu." Captain Taeho's face appeared. Behind him, his crew moved with quiet efficiency. At the weapons station sat Lieutenant Yuna, a young woman with short black hair and steady hands. She was the best weapons officer in the fleet. She had never missed a shot in her life. Today, she could not afford to start. Captain Sumi said, "You know the plan? Take position behind Saturn's rings. The ice and rock will hide your energy signature. Wait for my signal." "Understood, Admiral?" Ho paused. "And if the signal never comes?" Sung-mi's expression did not change. "Then you wait until they reach Earth, and you make them pay for every kilometer." The channel closed. Taeho turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral? Take us to Saturn. Silent running. No active sensors, no communications, no emissions of any kind. We are a ghost until I say otherwise." The Baekdu turned and accelerated into the darkness. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another blue dot among the stars. "Lieutenant." Yuna ran simulation after simulation on her console. Each one ended the same way. 300 ships against 12. Conventional tactics gave them a survival rate of 0.003%. Less than one chance in 30,000? "You should stop looking at those," said a voice beside her. Chief Engineer Daesu had come up to her station. He looked even more tired than usual. "I need to understand the enemy," Yuna said. "Their formation patterns, their response times, their shield frequencies. Their shields will not matter." Daesu leaned closer. "Do you know why they abandoned kinetic weapons?" Yuna shook her head. "Because kinetic weapons require mass. A plasma beam can fire forever as long as you have power. A railgun needs ammunition. Heavy ammunition The hegemony decided that energy weapons were more efficient. They built their entire military doctrine around them. Their shields, their armor, their tactics, all designed to counter energy attacks. And they forgot about kinetic weapons. They did not just forget, Desu said. They stopped believing kinetic weapons could be dangerous. To them, bullets are what primitives use. Arrows and spears and rocks thrown by savages. They never imagined that a savage might throw a rock at 5% of light speed. Yuna looked at her targeting systems. The Railgun's firing solution was already calculated. One shot, one target. Everything depended on her not missing. "How much energy does our main gun carry?" she asked. Desu smiled his tired smile. "At full velocity? About 47 teratons. That is roughly 900,000 times more powerful than the largest nuclear bomb ever built. Their shields can handle maybe 100 gigatons before overloading. We are hitting them with almost 500 times that amount." Yuna felt her hands tremble slightly. She had trained with weapons all her life. Missiles, lasers, plasma cannons, but nothing like this. Nothing that could erase a ship from existence with a single shot. "What if I miss?" she whispered. "Then we are all dead." Desu put a hand on her shoulder. "But you will not miss. I have seen your records. You are the best we have. That is why you are here." The hours passed slowly. The Baekdu slid through Saturn's rings, hiding among billions of tons of ice and rock. On the bridge, the crew watched and waited. No one spoke much. There was nothing to say. Then the hegemony arrived. They came out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit. 300 ships arranged in perfect formation. The flagship was a monster. 12 kilometers of gleaming metal and deadly weapons. Grand Warden Vorik commanded from its bridge. He had conquered 47 worlds for the hegemony. Earth would be 40-8. His communications officer opened a channel to Earth. "People of Earth, this is Grand Warden Vorik of the Galactic Hegemony. We have come to welcome you into our great civilization. Surrender your weapons, submit to our authority, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to respond." Admiral Sung-mi answered from Earth orbit. Her voice was calm and clear. "Grand Warden, this is Admiral Sung-mi of Earth's Defense Coalition. We have received your message. Here is our response. We will not submit. We will not surrender. You have been warned." Vorik laughed. He actually laughed. "Warned? You warn us? Little Admiral, we have destroyed species 1,000 times more advanced than yours. Your primitive rockets and crude weapons are no threat to us. This is your final chance. Surrender now." "No." Vorik's amusement faded. "Very well. Let us show you what happens to species that refuse the hegemony's mercy." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their moon." Low power shot. Just enough to make a point. A beam of brilliant blue plasma erupted from the flagship. It crossed the distance to Luna in seconds. When it struck, a crater 50 kilometers wide simply vanished, vaporized, turned to gas, and scattered into space. On Earth, billions of people watched the explosion. Terror spread like a disease. Their moon. The aliens had just wounded their moon as casually as a person might swat a fly. But in the shadows of Saturn's rings, Captain Taeho watched with different eyes. He saw not terror, but opportunity. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said quietly, "begin targeting calculations." Main gun. Yuna's fingers flew across her console. Target acquired. The flagship. Range, 800 million kilometers. Time to impact at full velocity, 47 minutes. Ho nodded. "Admiral Sumi, this is Baidu. Requesting permission to fire." The response came immediately. "Permission granted, Captain. Show them what primitives can do." Taeho looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. Her hands were steady now. The fear was gone, replaced by cold determination. Fire. The HSS Baekdu trembled as power flowed through its core. 2 kilometers of electromagnetic coils hummed with enough energy to light a city for a year. In the heart of the ship, a tungsten rod 10 meters long and weighing 10 tons began to move. Lieutenant Yuna pressed the firing button. The universe screamed. The railgun fired with a flash of light that turned Saturn's rings into day. The electromagnetic pulse was so powerful that it burned out sensors on 3 nearby moons. The tungsten rod accelerated down the barrel faster and faster until it left the ship at 15,000 kilometers per second. 5% of the speed of light. A bullet fired by gods, and then silence. The rod was invisible now, too fast to track with normal sensors. It crossed the void between Saturn and Jupiter's orbit, covering 800 million kilometers of empty space. Behind it, the Baekdu drifted dark and cold, its main weapon spent. Shot away, Yuna announced. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded. Time to impact, 47 minutes. Ateho nodded. Now we wait. 47 minutes. It felt like forever. Across the solar system, Grand Warden Vorik continued his conquest with casual arrogance. His fleet moved toward Earth at a leisurely pace. There was no rush. The primitives had no weapons that could threaten him. Their admiral's defiant words were amusing, nothing more. He had heard such words before, from dozens of species. They all broke eventually, and Grand Warden, his sensor officer, said. We detected a massive energy discharge near Saturn. Unknown origin. Vorik barely glanced at the report. Probably one of their primitive reactors exploding. Ignore it, yes, Grand Warden. The minutes passed. The hegemony fleet drew closer to Mars. Soon they would reach Earth. Soon another world would bow before the hegemony's might. Vorik was reviewing the invasion plans when his sensor officer spoke again. Grand Warden, I am detecting an anomaly. Something is approaching us at extremely high velocity. What kind of something? Unknown. It appears to be solid matter. A projectile of some kind. Vorik frowned. A missile? At this range, their primitive weapons could never reach us from Saturn. It is not a missile, Grand Warden. There is no propulsion signature. It is just ... moving. Very fast. For the first time, Vorik felt a small seed of unease. How fast? The sensor officer's voice trembled. 15,000 kilometers per second. It will reach us in approximately 2 minutes. Raise shields to maximum. All ships, defensive formation. The fleet moved with practiced precision. 300 ships arranged themselves to protect the flagship. Energy shields flared to full power, creating a wall of shimmering light. 1 minute. Can we intercept it? Vorik demanded. Our weapons are designed for energy attacks. We have nothing that can stop a physical projectile at this velocity. Then move the ship. Get us out of its path. There is no time. It is moving too fast. 30 seconds. Vorik stared at the tactical display. A single red dot, moving toward his flagship. Such a small thing. Just a piece of metal flying through space. His mighty dreadnought had survived 100 battles. Its shields had turned aside planet-killing weapons. Surely it could survive this. 10 seconds. All hands brace for impact. 5 seconds. Vorik saw the projectile on the visual sensors. Just a flash, streak of silver that existed for less than a heartbeat. Then the world ended. The tungsten rod struck the flagship's shields at 15,000 kilometers per second. For 1/1,000,000th of a second, the shields tried to stop it. They failed. The rod passed through them like they were not there. It hit the hull, 40-7. Teratons of kinetic energy released in an instant. The flagship did not explode. Explosions take time. The flagship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, 12 kilometers of the most advanced warship in the galaxy. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of plasma and debris, vaporized, erased. The shockwave hit the surrounding ships like the fist of an angry god. 12 vessels caught in the immediate blast radius were torn apart. 40 more were crippled by debris traveling at thousands of kilometers per second. Shields overloaded. Hulls cracked. Reactors went critical. In 3 seconds, the hegemony lost 53 ships. In 3 seconds, Grand Warden Vorik and his entire crew died, without ever understanding what killed them. The surviving fleet scattered in panic. Ships that had never known defeat now fled like frightened animals. Captains screamed for explanations that no one could give. How? How was this possible? Their shields could stop anything. Their armor could survive anything. What primitive weapon could do this? On the bridge of the Baekdu, silence held for a long moment. Then Desu spoke. Direct hit. Target eliminated. Yuna stared at her screens. The flagship was gone. Just ... gone. Thousands of aliens had died because she pressed a button. She had killed more beings in one moment than most soldiers killed in a lifetime. Her hands started to shake. Tae-Ho noticed. He walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. Lieutenant, look at me. She looked up. Her eyes were wet. You did your duty, he said gently. You saved billions of lives today. Never forget that. I killed thousands. Thousands who came to enslave us. Thousands who would have killed millions without a second thought. This is war, Yuna. We did not start it, but we will finish it. Admiral Sungmi's voice came through the communications system. Baekdu, this is command. Confirmed kill on the Hegemony flagship. The enemy fleet is retreating toward Mars orbit. Outstanding work, Tae-Ho responded. Thank you, Admiral. But it is not over yet. They still have 250 ships. I know. And now, they know what we can do. Sungmi's voice carried a grim satisfaction. Captain, I want you to send them a message. Let them know exactly what just happened. Tae-Ho nodded to his communications officer. A channel opened to the Hegemony fleet. Tension Hegemony forces. This is Captain Tae-Ho of the HSS Baekdu. Your flagship has been destroyed by a single railgun round. You called us primitives. You said our weapons were crude. Let me explain something to you. That was one ship. One gun, one shot. We have 12 ships. Leave our system now, and we will not fire again. Stay, and we will destroy every single one of you. You have 10 minutes to decide. The channel closed. Across the galaxy, sensors on 1,000 worlds recorded what had happened. A primitive species, newly discovered, had just obliterated the Hegemony's mightiest warship. The video spread through communication networks like wildfire. Species that had lived under Hegemony rule for centuries watched in stunned amazement. The humans had hurt them. The invincible Hegemony had been hurt by primitives with rocks. Everything was about to change. The Hegemony fleet hung motionless beyond Mars orbit. 247 ships remained from the original 300. They did not advance. They did not retreat. They simply waited, paralyzed by something they had never experienced before. Fear. Fleet Commander Heron had been the second in command before the flagship vanished. Now, she was in charge of a fleet that no longer believed in victory. Her crew looked at her with desperate eyes, waiting for orders she did not know how to give. Get me the Hegemony Council, she commanded. Priority transmission. Now, the holographic display flickered to life. 12 figures appeared, the rulers of the Galactic Hegemony. They looked as shocked as she felt. Fleet Commander, the Council's leader spoke. Explain what happened. How did the humans destroy the Grand Warden's flagship? I do not know, Heron admitted. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. They fired a projectile of some kind. Solid matter, moving at 5% of light speed. It passed through our shields as if they did not exist. Impossible. Our shields can stop any weapon. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. This was not energy. It was mass. 10 tons of metal, carrying more kinetic force than our shields could comprehend. Silence fell over the council. For 10,000 years, the Hegemony had dominated the galaxy. They had forgotten what it felt like to lose. What are your recommendations, Fleet Commander? Heron closed her eyes. She thought of the 53 ships that had died in seconds. She thought of the humans waiting in the shadows with their terrible weapon. We retreat, she said. We retreat, we regroup, and we find a way to counter this technology. If we attack now, they will destroy us. Hegemony does not retreat. Then the Hegemony will die. Heron's voice hardened. One have 200 ships left. They have 12. And those 12 ships have weapons that can kill us at ranges we cannot even comprehend. We cannot fight an enemy. We cannot hurt. The council argued for hours. Pride fought against survival. Tradition fought against reality. In the end, survival won. It's very well, the council leader said. Retreat. But understand this, fleet commander. This is not over. The hegemony will return, and when we do, we will burn Earth to its core. Heron ended the transmission. She looked at her tactical display one more time, then gave the order. All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump. We are leaving. On Earth, celebrations erupted as the hegemony fleet vanished from sensors. People danced in the streets. They wept with relief. They had faced extinction and survived, but the people who had won the victory did not celebrate. Admiral Sung-mi sat in her command center, staring at reports from across the galaxy. The video of the flagship's destruction had spread everywhere. Billions of beings had watched it. And now, something unexpected was happening. Admiral Harade said, "We are receiving encrypted transmissions from 17 different species. They are all asking the same question." Sun-mi looked at the messages. 17 species. Some she had never heard of. All of them had been conquered by the hegemony long ago. All of them had lived as servants, as slaves, for centuries, and all of them wanted to know, "Can you teach us to build railguns?" Ambassador Lisa arrived on Earth 3 days later. She came secretly, her ship disguised as a trading vessel. When she met Admiral Sung-mi, her eyes were bright with tears. "You understand what you have done?" Lisa asked. "For 10,000 years, no one has hurt the hegemony. No one has made them bleed. Species tried to resist and were crushed. After enough time, we stopped trying, accepted that this was how the galaxy worked. The strong ruled, the weak served, and now there is hope." Lisa gripped Sung-mi's hands. "You have shown us that the hegemony can be hurt. You have shown us that they are not gods. They can die just like anyone else. Do you know how many species are watching Earth right now? Do you know how many are dreaming of freedom for the first time in centuries?" Sung-mi nodded slowly. "Then we should help them dream." On the HSS Baekdu, Captain Taeho stood before his crew. They had been called heroes. Their names were spoken with reverence across all of human space. But looking at them now, he saw only tired soldiers who had done a terrible, necessary thing. Lieutenant Yuna had not slept in days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flagship vanishing. She heard the screams of aliens dying in fire and vacuum. She knew that she had saved her world. She also knew that she had killed more beings than she could count. Taeho found her alone on the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You should rest," he said. "I cannot." Her voice was hollow. "Every time I try, I see them dying. Thousands of them. 'Cause of me." Taeho stood beside her. "Do you remember why we fight? To protect Earth?" "Yes, and you did. Because of what you did, billions of people are safe tonight. Children will grow up free. Families will stay together. All because you had the courage to pull that trigger when it mattered." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. "They will come back. The hegemony will find a way to stop our railguns, and they will come back. Probably." Taeho looked out at the stars. "And when they do, we will find a new way to stop them. That is what humans do. We adapt. We survive. We refuse to give up." Down in the engineering section, Chief Engineer Dae-soo was already working on the next generation of weapons. Project Stormbreaker, he called it. A platform that could fire railgun rounds in rapid succession instead of one at a time. Faster. Deadlier. "You know, they will find a counter to our weapons," his assistant said. Dae-soo nodded. "Of course. And we will find a counter to their counter. They will find a counter to that. This is how war works. The species that stops innovating is the species that dies." He looked at his designs and smiled. "They thought we were primitives. They forgot that primitive species survive by being dangerous. And there is nothing more dangerous than a species fighting for its existence." As the weeks passed, more messages arrived on Earth. Species from across the galaxy reaching out in secret. Some wanted weapons. Some wanted alliance. Some simply wanted to know that humanity was real. The video they had seen was not a lie. Earth's leaders debated what to do. Some wanted to stay hidden, to build defenses, and wait for the hegemony to forget about them. Others wanted to strike first, to attack the hegemony before they could recover. Admiral Sung Mi proposed a different path. "We cannot hide," she said, "and we cannot win alone. But we can lead. 17 species have asked for our help. 17 species who have lived under hegemony rule for longer than humanity has existed. If we help them, if we share our technology, we will not be 12 ships against 300. We will be hundreds of ships against thousands. And that is a war we can win." The vote was close, but Sung Mi's plan passed. Humanity would not hide. Humanity would not run. Humanity would lead a revolution. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Saturn's Gate. 1 year since a single shot changed the galaxy forever. Earth was no longer alone. The free systems alliance had grown beyond anything Admiral Sung Mi had imagined. 17 species had defected from the hegemony in the first month, then 30 more in the second. Now, 1 year later, over 60 species flew under the alliance banner. Worlds that had been slaves were now free. Beings who had known only submission now learned to stand tall. And at the center of it all stood humanity. The primitives who had taught the galaxy how to fight. Admiral Sung Mi looked out the window of Alliance Command Station. 200 ships floated in formation outside, a fleet that would have been impossible just 12 months ago. Half of them were human designs, built with railgun technology that had spread across the Alliance like fire. The other half were alien vessels, modified with human weapons and human tactics. Admiral Harade said, "The latest intelligence reports are in." Sung Mi took the datapad and read. The hegemony had lost 1/3 of its territory in the past year. Species that had served for millennia were breaking free. The hegemony's military, once the terror of the galaxy, was stretched thin trying to maintain control. But they were not beaten. Not yet. Any sign of their new weapon program? Sung Mi asked. Nothing concrete. Our spies report massive construction projects in hegemony core space. They are building something, but we do not know what. Sung Mi nodded. She had expected this. The hegemony would not accept defeat. They would adapt, just as humanity had adapted. The war was far from over. On the training grounds of the Alliance Military Academy, Lieutenant Yuna watched her students practice targeting exercises. They were aliens, beings from a dozen different species. Some had forearms. Some had no arms at all. Some communicated through color changes in their skin. But they all had one thing in common. They wanted to learn how to fight. "Focus on your breathing," Yuna called out. "The railgun fires in 1,000th of a second. Your targeting calculations must be perfect before you press the trigger. There are no second chances." A young alien raised his hand. He was from a species that had been conquered by the hegemony 2,000 years ago. His people had never known freedom. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said, "is it true that you fired the shot that destroyed the hegemony flagship?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. She had answered this question many times. It never got easier. "Yes," she said. "I fired the shot. What did it feel like?" Yuna looked at her students. These young beings who had come to learn the art of war, they needed to understand what that meant. "It felt like responsibility," she said. "Thousands of beings died because of my action. I think about them every day. I wonder if they had families. I wonder if they were good people who simply followed bad orders." She paused. "But then I think about what would have happened if I had not fired. Billions of humans would have been enslaved. My world would have been conquered. Sometimes the cost of peace is too high. Sometimes you must be willing to do terrible things to protect the people you love." The students were silent. They understood. They had all lost people to the hegemony. They had all suffered under its rule. Now they were learning to fight back. "Today," Yuna continued, "you are beginners. But someday you might be the one who fires the shot that saves your world. When that day comes, you must be ready. Ready to aim. Ready to fire? Ready to live with the consequences." Deep in the engineering labs of Earth, Chief Engineer Dae-Soo unveiled his masterwork. It was called the Stormhammer, and it was beautiful in a terrifying way. A railgun the size of a small moon built into an asteroid that had been hollowed out and reinforced. Its barrel was 50 kilometers long. Its capacitors could store enough energy to power a planet, and its projectiles could travel at 12% of the speed of light. With this weapon, Desu explained to the gathered leaders, we can threaten any world in the galaxy. One shot from Stormhammer could crack a planet's crust. We would never use it for offense, of course, but the hegemony will know it exists, and they will know what happens if they ever threaten Earth again. Admiral Sungmi studied the plans. How long until it is operational? 2 years. Maybe 3. Desu smiled his tired smile. But when it is ready, no one will ever call us primitives again. Ambassador Lissa had become the voice of the Alliance. She traveled from world to world, speaking to species that were still undecided. Her message was always the same. The hegemony told us we were weak. They told us resistance was futile. They made us believe that slavery was our natural state. But they were wrong. Humanity proved they were wrong. One species, standing alone, made the hegemony bleed. Now imagine what we can do together. Imagine a galaxy where no species is a slave. Imagine a future where your children grow up free. Thousands listened to her words. Thousands made the choice to join the Alliance. Every day, the free systems grew stronger. Captain Taeho had been promoted to Commodore. He now commanded a small fleet of his own, 12 ships that served as the tip of the Alliance's spear. But he remained uncomfortable with his fame. He had not wanted to be a hero. He had simply done what was necessary. You know, they are building something, he said to Admiral Sumi during their weekly meeting. Something designed to counter our railguns. I know. When it is ready, they will come for us again. And this time, they will not underestimate us. Sungmi nodded. Then we must be ready. We must continue to grow, to innovate, to prepare. The war is not over, Taeho. It may not be over for a long time. And if we lose... Sungmi looked out at the stars. So many worlds out there. So many species counting on them. Then we lose. But we will make them pay such a price that they will remember us forever. That is what humans do. We fight. We survive. And if we cannot survive, we make our enemies wish they had never found us. Intelligence reports continued to trickle in. The hegemony was fractured, but not broken. They were building new ships with modified shields. They were developing weapons specifically designed to counter kinetic attacks. They were preparing for the next war. But so was the Alliance. In shipyards across 60 worlds, new vessels took shape. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, combining technologies that had never been combined before. Railguns became faster, more accurate, more deadly. Shield technologies were adapted to block both energy and mass. A new generation of warriors trained in academies that taught tactics the hegemony had never seen. The galaxy was changing. The old order was dying, and a new order was being born. On the anniversary of the Battle of Saturn's Gate, a ceremony was held on Earth. Millions gathered to honor those who had fought. The crew of the HSS Baidu stood at attention as speeches were given and medals were awarded. Eunice stood beside Taeho, watching the crowds. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked quietly. Taeho considered the question. "I think we did what we had to do. And I think we started something that cannot be stopped." For 10,000 years, the hegemony ruled through fear. We showed the galaxy that fear can be overcome. That is worth any price. The ceremony ended. The crowds dispersed. Life continued. But in the shadows of hegemony space, a massive structure took shape. It was a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, designed by the greatest minds of 100 conquered species. A weapon that could stop railgun rounds. A weapon that could destroy the Alliance. Fleet Commander Heron supervised its construction. She had been disgraced after the retreat from Earth. Now she had one chance to redeem herself. One chance to crush the humans who had humiliated her.
How much longer?
She asked the engineers. 18 months. Perhaps less. Heron smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Good. When it is ready, we will teach the primitives what happens to species that challenge the hegemony. Back on Earth, Commodore Tejo received the intelligence report about the hegemony's new weapon. He read it carefully, then set it down. They are learning, he said to Desu. They are adapting. Desu nodded. Good. Good. Of course, if they gave up, the war would be over. But they have not given up. They are fighting back. That means we must grow stronger. We must innovate faster. We must become something even greater than we are today. Adasu grinned. This is what I live for, Commodore. The challenge, the competition, the endless race to survive. Tejo laughed despite himself. You are a strange man, Desu.
Perhaps.
But I am also the man who will keep humanity alive, and that is enough for me. The stars burned cold and bright in the endless darkness. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted and weapons were built. Somewhere out there, wars waited to be fought. But on Earth, on a world that had faced extinction and survived, humanity looked up at those stars with new eyes. They were no longer afraid. They were no longer alone. The galaxy had believed that civilization meant abandoning barbaric weapons. Humanity had proven them wrong. Sometimes the most primitive solution was the most devastating. Sometimes a rock thrown hard enough could shake the stars, and now the galaxy would never be the same again.